Welcome to Backstage Pass with Gail Davis, your invitation into the world of keynote speaking and event planning expertise. Join us as we pull back the curtain and dive into exclusive interviews with speaking industry experts. From seasoned speakers to master event planners, we're here to provide you with the ultimate backstage experience. Get ready to unlock valuable insights, tips, and strategies that will elevate your events and leave your audience inspired. Welcome to Backstage Pass. My name is Gail Davis, and I am your host. I am thrilled to have our guest today, Todd Whitthorne. I have known and worked with Todd for over 20 years, and our company has booked him over 30 times to rave reviews. And I think it's because Todd is the full package. He was a broadcaster, 2 decades, and an Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, let me say. But he also was a senior executive at the Cooper Aerobics Center, and we are so proud to have that facility here in Dallas. It's considered by many to be the Mecca of preventative medicine and lifestyle. So you take Todd's presentation skills along with his knowledge, and it's something that audiences really enjoy. Since 2000, Todd has probably impacted the overall health of over 1 million people, providing them with information and providing them with more sustainable habits. So welcome, Todd.
Gail, thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be with you today.
Well, there's so much we can talk about. I want to keep it tight. And I think the first concept I'd like to begin with is I've heard you say that health isn't a mystery, it's a puzzle. So when people come to you or they're sitting in the audience and they're like, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stuck, what problem in this puzzle are they really trying to solve?
I think it's primarily a priority issue, Gail. And it's interesting, the mystery and the puzzle concept, full disclosure, I borrowed that from Malcolm Gladwell. You know, a mystery, to solve a mystery, you need clues. You have to go in search of clues and put them all together. With a puzzle, that's different. You have all the clues. Think of a jigsaw puzzle. You have those puzzle pieces. Now you have to figure out how to put them together. Health is absolutely a puzzle. We know what works. You know what works, and anyone watching us knows what works. It's not really a mystery that physical activity is beneficial, that eating good food is better than eating fast food or processed food, getting enough sleep, not smoking, all of these things, managing stress. We all know that, but it's really how do you put it together and incorporate it in your life? So it's a matter of priority and taking a step back and figuring out, how do I solve this puzzle for me? Because we're all different. But you have to turn it into a priority because it won't happen on its own. The environment we live in makes it really, really hard to be healthy unless you're intentional.
I know for many years I booked you a lot with YPO, the Young Presidents Organization. And for anyone listening that's not familiar with that, it's a group of presidents that run major companies. And I know one of the reasons they liked you is you incorporated practical ways that everyone could work on their health, because you so often hear people say, I just don't have time. What's your response to that?
Again, I challenge you on that. It's not a time issue. Everybody on this planet has 24 hours in a day. We also have a tendency to think we're kind of the center of our universe, but the reality is we're part of a real big picture. And we need to take the time to take a step back and say, what's important to me? Why am I here? What's my meaning and purpose? And allow that to dictate how you allocate your time. Because that's really the only thing we have control over, right? We want to think we have control over our life, but the reality is we get up in the morning, we think the way the day's going to go. It never goes like that. So much like the Stoics used to say, it's not what happens that matters, it's how you respond. We've got to be flexible, we have to be resilient, and then we have to pay attention to the data, the science, the evidence, as to what's going to help me manage this better. But it really starts, I believe, with having a conversation with yourself. Several years ago, there was a study, it was actually a survey that was done in England, trying to determine how many conversations the average adult had in a day. and they came back with the number 27. And that's an average. And none of us are average, Gail. You know that. So for us, it may be higher, maybe lower. It really doesn't matter. What I think, though, that's super important is to recognize that the most important conversation you have every day of your life is that conversation you have with yourself. And when I talk to people, and especially when we establish some trust, you sit down and talk to someone where they feel comfortable, they feel safe, and you start asking them, what's getting in the way? What's the problem? What are you telling yourself? Why can't you do what you want to accomplish? And so often I hear things, I'm just too busy. It won't work. I'm too tired. I'm too old. Or the one that drives me crazy is I'm not worth it. And that's a false narrative. There's no evidence to support any of that. So I encourage people to have a conversation with yourself and really ask, what's going on here? What's dictating? What's this little voice that may be completely subconscious that's constantly playing in the back of my head? And am I telling myself the truth? And quite often I find no. So if you really focus on what's important to you and what will bring you what Aristotle used to talk about is not hedonistic happiness, but he defined eudaimonic happiness, which is really deep meaning and purpose in your life, where you know you're here for a reason and that you're making a significant positive contribution to the world in which we live. You're helping other people have better lives. And you start thinking about the why and really what matters. Then it's pretty easy, I believe, to allocate your time. The challenge we have, though, is the world in which we live is competing. This little device that we all have probably within our arm's reach right now is crazy powerful. I mean, crazy powerful. And we talk a lot about what it does for children, but it's doing the same thing for adults. And we have to be honest with ourselves. So it really is not just the what. Knowledge doesn't change behavior. We can talk all day about the what, how to eat better, how to exercise, how to get better sleep, how to manage stress, how to manage technology, how to incorporate more joy and gratitude. All of those things, super easy to talk about. But it really ultimately, I think, boils down to you individually figuring out, why are you here? What are you doing? And what do you want to accomplish? And it's usually not about specifically the number on the scale or, that's a part of it. But it's really big picture, understanding we're here for a limited amount of time. This is not a dress rehearsal. What's important to you?
Recently, you were in our office and you had lunch with our team and you presented a concept that they're still talking about, which was the 1490. Can you share that with our listeners?
I'll be glad to, Gail. And it's something I've been working on, with audiences for over a year now, and it seems to really resonate. So the question that I suggested earlier is, what am I doing and what am I worth? You got to ask yourself that question. What are you worth? And again, we've got 24 hours in a day. So are you worth 1%, 2%, 5% of the day, 10%? What are you worth? You got to answer that. It's a difficult question, and it's not necessarily going to happen right away. But what I encourage folks to do is to carve out 1% of your day. That's the 14. 1% of our day is 14 minutes. And so are you worth 1%? So starting tomorrow morning, the first thing when you get up after you go to the bathroom and maybe, let the dog out, make a cup of coffee, just sit down without any distraction. I mean, any distraction, no phone, no tablet, no laptop, radio, television, newspaper, nothing. Just sit and think with no real agenda. Just kind of see what happens, see where you go. Marcus Aurelius, one of the Stoic philosophers, used to say, when you arise in the morning, think about what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. It's not a bad quote to start your day, just to think about that. Because again, we are so distracted and we have so many elements in our life that are trying desperately to get us to do what they want us to do. And by that, I mean apps and algorithms and bots. They're really good at that. I mean, super good at that. And it's driving us a little bit nutty if you look at the data around this. And so just sit down and think for 1% of your day, 14 minutes. Now, the 90 is, can you do that for 90 straight days? Because when you really think about it, change doesn't happen overnight, right? It's a step. It's a process, right? You've got to get the process in order. And until you're right here, nothing else matters. I can fill you, as I mentioned earlier, with all sorts of data and information, and knowledge does not change behavior. It's what you do, right? It's that concept of what you choose, what you think, and what you do becomes who you are. But that doesn't happen overnight. So you've got to, again, take a step back and say, all right, it's not going to happen right away, but I'm worth it. I'm worth 1%. And over the next 90 days, 3 months, really important things can happen physically and emotionally. So how you feel, how you look, how you show up, and more importantly, how you see the world. And just think about in the morning, maybe I'm just going to practice a little bit of gratitude. Gail, as you know, I'm a proud UCLA Bruin. A lot of research out of UCLA around the concept of gratitude. So those that practice gratitude have lower rates of anxiety and depression. They have better optimism, self-esteem, life satisfaction. They lower their heart rate and their blood pressure, and they sleep better. That's evidence. That's strong data. So why wouldn't it make sense to start your day with some gratitude? Set the stage for your day and recognize that, again, you look at the research, by the time we turn 18 years old, we've been told no 148,000 times, and that up to 77% of our thoughts are negative. So let's change that. Let's intentionally modify the way we go about our day and invest just 1% in our day and commit to 90 days and then watch what happens. And I think you would be amazed.
Well, I am curious because that seems very, very doable. Have you seen some significant real changes over long times after people start this?
So this is not, and I'll be honest with you, Gail, a lot of my talk is always grounded in evidence and,
All right.
peer-reviewed research and that
Sure,
kind of stuff,
sure.
like what works. This is something I've been experimenting with, and I'm gradually more and more being able to answer that question. It's different for everybody.
Sure.
But it is those people, you've got to be ready to change. You got, the Dr. Prochaska used to talk about the stages of change, and you have to be in that preparation mode that you're going to have that conversation and say, yeah, I can do that. I started quite actually, personally, I started with 5 minutes, and I realized that 5 minutes wasn't enough. I wanted to lower the bar to see, because if the mountain is too high, people are going to say, I can't do that. So again, if you tell yourself, I can't carve out 14 minutes out of 24 hours, then you're right. You're not going to be able to. You've got to have that confidence and that self-efficacy to say, I can do that. That's a doable thing, and it's free. And let me give it a whirl. And let me try as hard as I can to not let anything get in the way of that. So starting your day on a positive note with a 14-minute commitment. And I think what you'll see over the course of time, and what the feedback to answer your question is, people will identify what is really important to them. And then they'll start modifying their behavior based on that. So I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen here. It's really up to you. But the 5 big buckets that I think is important for us all to think about. My background's in kinesiology and exercise physiology. So fitness matters. We are born to move and to run and jump and play and fall and dance and do all the things that we did when we were kids. And that's really good for your brain, and it's really good for your body. So physical activity, nutrition, obviously, sleep, the management of technology, and the intentionality around joy. Those are the 5 things that I think are important for us to kind of take an inventory on and say, how am I doing on these things? And it's not up to me or you, it's up to the individual. Where do you have opportunity to improve? And what do you think is an area where you ought to start? And then say, all right, I'm gonna start taking baby steps. We don't make quantum leaps. It's day by day, step by step. And before you know it, 90 days later, you'll look back and you go, wow. The reality is we're all changing. We're going to change in 90 days, whether we try to or not, Gail. That's just the way it works. If you think about where you are today compared to where you were 5 years ago, you're different, right? You think different. You see the world differently. These are all very important things. That means you're also going to be very different in 5 years. I'm telling you, you're going to be different in 90 days. It's really up to you is how different do you want to be? Or if you're super happy with where you are, keep doing what you're doing. That's I think, important to recognize. We need to really understand how our behavior is connected directly to the way we really enjoy life. So it's a lot more than your weight or your blood pressure or your triglycerides. Those things all come along for the ride, by the way, and that's positive. But I'm really talking about the big picture here. How can you help someone really truly understand that from today moving forward, their life can be far better? We don't know how long it's going to be. We can influence it as much as we can, but it's really about, let me win today, and then tomorrow I'm going to work on that winning tomorrow. So step by step.
For those event planners who are listening, is there a specific organization or industry or type of meeting where you really feel that you are just really in alignment and a great fit for that type of meeting, or again, organization or industry?
Well, as you know, you've booked me in a wide variety of groups. That's an interesting question. I have a personal love of speaking to leaders because they're in a position to influence others. So if I can get them to understand and embrace this personally, then I know that the message is going to be magnified. I do a lot of work in public education, both K through 12 and college, university level, advanced educators. They're super smart and they understand, but they're under a lot of pressure. I do a lot of work with, as you certainly know, judicial groups, judges and people that work in the law. But it really varies all over the map. I do quite a bit of work in the employee benefits space because I'm fascinated with the intersection of health and healthcare. Health being much of what we're talking about today. Healthcare I put in the bucket of economics. Basically, who's going to pay for it, right? So in our country, we've got a very interesting dynamic around healthcare. So I enjoy helping people understand that these two overlap, and that as from a leadership standpoint, if you're intentional about how you design your employee benefits and how you model, or what often is referred to as signaling to your troops, that you care about them, right? Employers need to let their employees know that they care about them. And you don't just talk about it, you have to demonstrate it.
Todd, before we wrap up, if someone is listening and they really want to take control of their health, what are 3 things that anyone could start doing today?
Great question. And I think that has to do with kind of where they are and what they're interested in focusing on. Obviously, that 1% commitment every morning, I think is super doable. And I think it's also very powerful. But if you want to kind of pick specifically, if you were to think about physical activity, I mentioned obviously lifting weights, but more important than that, get outside. Just be intentional about getting outside. Not what you would normally do on your own, just walking to the car in a parking lot, but get outside, breathe some fresh air, listen to the birds and watch the trees, and just get outside, because we spend over 93% of our day indoors. So that's number one. Just try it. 10 minutes, especially after a meal, will be very beneficial. If you want to think about nutrition, I would say banish the barcode. Try to focus on good, high quality fuel. And anything with a barcode has been manufactured, it's been processed, and most likely it's got added sugar in it, which is killing your metabolism and your ability to manage blood glucose and inflammation. So really focus on treating yourself to good quality food. As it relates to sleep, now again, not everybody has problem sleeping, but those that do, try this. Just trust me on this. 3, 2, 1. The 3 stands for stop all food at least 3 hours before you go to bed. So if you're going to bed at 10, then stop eating at 7 or at 6. And I know it's going to maybe be a little inconvenient initially, but give it a shot, all right? The 2 stands for stop all liquids, 2 hours before you go to bed. And the 1 is stop technology, an hour before you go to bed. That's going to be hard for a lot of people. I get it, but hard is good. That's what makes us better. That's what makes us stronger. So if you are having trouble with sleep, 3, 2, 1. How's that?
I am so glad I asked that. I don't know that I have heard all of those things. I love it. And I personally, starting January 1 at 9 o'clock, I put my phone in the kitchen, and I don't care how badly I wanted to go look at it. I have not looked at it one time after 9 p.m. and it's January 19th. My sleep scores are off the charts.
There you go.
I mean, it's just
Our
crazy.
body, it's super simple, right? Our body does what we ask it to do, good or
Yeah.
bad. So if you change
Yeah.
your behavior, it's gonna respond. So congratulations.
Thank you. Todd, there is so much, and it's all so practical, and it's also encouraging. I really believe that you have a way of helping people see that taking care of yourself isn't really another item to put on the to-do list. It is literally the foundation for everything else that we're trying to do well. So if you are out there listening and you're an event planner and you're thinking, not only did I need this message, but our people need this message, our leaders need this message, please give us a call at GDA Speakers and we can talk about bringing Todd in to speak to your group. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Todd. And for those that are joining us on Backstage Pass, we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Gail. I appreciate you.
Thank you for joining us on Backstage Pass with Gail Davis. Tune in for more exclusive interviews and pro tips to elevate your events. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts with us. We'll catch you next time behind the curtain on Backstage Pass.